Hello and welcome to another Wednesday vlog, a shorter ramble through outdoor life, education, philosophy and basically time outdoors. So the weather has definitely changed. You can probably see it's beginning of December here in the UK and we've already got a nice layer of frost. It was -2 degrees when I arrived this morning and a little on the chilly side. Thankfully it got warmed up pulling all of the trolleys up the hill, and thankfully it's a bright blue clear day, so it'll be colder, but at least we have the sunshine to cheer us up. But this is a more challenging time of year in the outdoor industry, and the weather in the UK is particularly difficult to deal with because it's not just cold, it gets wet as well. And the wet and cold, the almost humid cold that seeps right into your bones, is pretty hard going, particularly for younger children. So the question at the moment I see a lot, and something that I don't have the answer to yet, is should I keep my sessions running through the winter? Should you basically go out and try and stay operating the sessions that you normally run through the winter, or do you operate on a reduced schedule, or do you just go and do something else for a while, or take some well-deserved time off? And you see people kind of responding to this in two ways, and it's usually this whole idea that it's a black and white thing, like, oh no, we keep going, it's all about getting children outdoors, all about teaching them that there's no such thing as poor weather, just inappropriate clothing, all of this. And then there's, okay, we're just going to struggle through the winter months. And the answer is really, whether you should run sessions through the winter it depends. It's a massive it depends. It depends on your personal situation, depends on the type of site you have, the client base you have, and so on. So if we start with structure, I am out here, if you can see in the video, I'm out here in Worley Woods, and all I have is a tarp, and we'll have a fire pit going, a stove underneath the tarp, and that will be our only source of shelter and heat over the course of the session. So a 4-hour session out here, or a whole day session, means that you're pretty much exposed to the elements a lot of the time. Unless you're really snugged up to the fire, you're still going to have the elements, you're still going to have wind moving through. It's going to be cold. Whereas if you have a cabin or a yurt or a canvas tent that stays on your site permanently, and you have a wood stove in there, and or you have a classroom on site there where you can go in, where children can go in and get warm, then it obviously opens things up, and you can keep running a lot longer, because you can spend an hour or two outside, then half an hour inside getting warm again, and then another 2 hours out, and they can keep on moving in and out. If they get cold, they can warm up. So it obviously affects things. So I'm less likely to run whole day events out here unless I can really keep them moving, or unless they're older children who won't get as cold. Just because there's no way to get warm, I can modulate it. I'm working on things to prove that I've got blankets, I've got hot water bottles, I've got hand warmers, and I'll obviously have a fire pit or a stove going as often as possible. And that's how I can modulate it. But at the end of the day, if it does start pouring down with rain, or if it does get bitterly cold, it's going to be a bit more of a struggle for me. Another factor, as I kind of alluded to a moment ago, is the age of the children. And some children do a lot better, with some ages of children do a lot better. Adults obviously cope with cold slightly better. Children, once they get cold fast, and it can be a challenge to warm them up. I'm one of those people who, once I get cold, I don't get warm again unless I'm exposed to a significant amount of heat. So I know exactly how challenging it is, and it's a struggle for me. In fact, to be honest, I start getting really depressed when I get cold. So for me, it's important to keep my body temperature up, to keep moving, and to keep the layers on. Whereas children maybe don't always have this control. I mean, it's still good to teach this, particularly during the shoulder months, the months where you have autumn and spring, where it's not cold, or beginning of winter, when it's milder, to start working on those skills, start talking about proper layering, talking about managing the cold. But what you're really saying is that there are different ages and the different ways they handle temperature. So you wouldn't leave a really young child outside without proper clothing. So yeah, age is a massive factor. And another factor is the type of group you have. So your clientele. So if you have sort of a captive audience, a captive customer base. So if you're school-based, forest school leader, and you get a class and they have to come out, and then they'll come out to your sessions, obviously it's a lot easier to keep going because you've got people willing. They kind of, I know this sounds awful, don't really have a choice, and so they won't usually opt out of forest school. Whereas for me, I work primarily with home educating families, and on days like this, to be honest, if it's really cold, it's really wet, they just won't book on a session, or they'll skip a session. And there comes a point where I don't have enough people to make it worth running a session. So rather than put a session together, be ready to deliver it and everything else, and then have to cancel at the last minute, issue refunds, or just work through it at a loss, it's sometimes better for me just to go, okay, I'm going to plan that there won't be a session today, and I'm going to look for income elsewhere. So it becomes a business choice there. Because why run sessions at a loss? It's better to plan for closures, and there will be more sessions, rained off, cold, and so on during the winter months, challenging days where you won't have that many people book on. So it makes sense that maybe you take a bit of a pause. For me personally, where I'm at the moment is I will run sessions until Christmas, and this is kind of what I've always done. Usually you can keep going. The festive spirit keeps people motivated to get out. It's a very exciting time of year. You can do Christmas crafts, you can do campfire feasts and all that, and you can still motivate people to get out. It doesn't usually get that cold that early. This is unusual year for these bitterly cold temperatures. Usually it's a lot milder. So for me, I'm going to keep going until Christmas. After the New Year, because I usually take a break over Christmas to New Year, I usually, in previous years, just shut down until March. Just gone and worked in a store or picked up some other work where I'm indoors and it's steady work. I don't have to worry about cancelling sessions or income drops. For me now, I have a few really hardy groups that I know of, older children that I know can make it through, and I know my income is set for those sessions because they are funded. So using those as a basis, I'm introducing a reduced timetable, and that means that some weeks I'll be picking up work elsewhere, other weeks I'll be full on running those normal sessions out in the woods as normal. That means that I keep my customer base going through the winter. I give them opportunities to get out, but it's not like it's every week that they have to motivate themselves to get out in the cold. Obviously there's benefits to this, but at the end of the day, I'm left with what my customers want to do. And if they don't particularly like the cold, if they don't like going in the cold, I can do as much as possible to help and assist them in managing that. But at the end of the day, it is their decision as individual families. So I will probably do another couple of videos on how I keep children warm, how successful I've been with running these sessions through the winter. But for now, it's cold and I've got a session to start. So I'm going to leave today's vlog there. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And remember, make the most of every day, because there are some stunning ones out there. Take care, and I'll see you next time.